My name is Daniel. This is my co-host Omar. We are a show, or welcome to our show, where we explore the fight and fighters. And so we're not just talking about what happens in the ring or in the cage, but the psychological, the emotional, the spiritual fights that we encounter in our lives.
We interview fighters with the hope to be inspired by their journey and motivate us to double down on our commitments to better our lives. If you have a fight in you or just love a good story, then welcome to our show. Today we had the Red Reaper on the show. We're really excited to get to know you a little bit better and, to dig deep, right? To dig deep like all fighters do, to really explore the journey that has brought you to this place. So without further ado, I'll pass it over to Daniel.
Hey, Red Reaper, can you tell us a little bit about the name? Like, how'd you come to choosing that name?
I was I lived in Louisiana at the time, and I just had these crazy dreams out there. I have family that are Wiccans in the South, so they kind of like, I don't know. I just kind of put it together from the dream. Like the dream was about like I was in these apartments, and the Grim Reaper was sitting at the bottom of these stairs, and he said my name, and I don't know, I threw a rock at him or something, but it looked like it hit a force field around him or something. And then we just started hanging out after that. And then he just like laid on this stone tablet or something. It was weird. And he basically said I was going to be like the new him. So I was like, all right, whatever. And then I woke up and didn't really pay no mind about it. And then years later, I ended up out there in Satan's backyard, and the name just popped up in my head.
That's deep, brother. You mentioned your family are Wiccans. Is that correct?
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that? What's a Wiccan?
Like they do like magic, or yeah, they're more spiritual. They're like I said, native people before, I guess, before Christianity was brought to to Black people before they were slaves. So there's like pretty much usually they worship the earth, like Gaia and stuff like that, and do sages every morning and cleansings and stuff like that, basically. And then I kind of got into it.
Is that what
Was that?
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask, is that where Red comes from? Because normally people use the name Reaper, but they don't put like a
yeah, well, it's because in my dream the skull is just turned red after he laid on the stone tablet, I guess. So I just went with that, and then I just made like later on because there's I guess a movie called there's this one movie called something, but it had like the Red Reaper as one of the main characters. So I didn't want to feel like I was stealing it, so I added the dots in between to make it Ruthless Evil Demon Reaper, because no one else had that.
Ruthless Evil Deemer?
Evil Demon Reaper.
Evil Demon Reaper.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure everyone who's read your name or said your name had probably no idea that that's what that meant. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's just Red Reaper for short, because it's a long name.
Yeah, that's powerful, man. I think that history that you just dropped on us is super powerful, and that's important. That's like really part of your journey. That's part of your history. That's part of your family's history, right? It's something you carry with you. I'm curious, like, one of the things that we've been talking to fighters about is like what happens before a fight, right? Like all of the mental, spiritual, emotional roller coaster that a fighter goes through just to step into that ring, right? I'm wondering, like, what does that look like for you? What does it look like? What is your ritual? What is your preparation prior to getting into the ring? And is there any connection to the sort of the practices of the Wiccans?
Nothing really. I just know that the person that's in front of me, I'm going to beat him regardless. Cause, I fought like growing up, I fought quite a few battles in the streets, against people way bigger than me. Like I used to have the little man syndrome because I used to be short at one time for a long time, and real short and skinny with big feet and stuff. So I got made fun of a lot, and then I had little brothers and stuff. So I'm like the oldest of 5 brothers, and I have 1 sister. So I had to learn. I had to learn how to fight because I kind of grew up in an area where it was like racism against blacks and Mexicans, where they would always get in confrontations and stuff. And just because my skin tone, people always thought like I was Hispanic from the black side, so I'd get jumped or picked on because of that. And then the Mexicans knew that I was black, so they would mess with me because of that also. And I always ended up in fights just growing up. So and my brothers were like, I don't know, I guess kind of nerdy or whatever, but they always had to deal with bullies, and I always ended up fighting the bullies for them.
So where did you grow up? I mean, you're mentioning it now because you said earlier, I think Louisiana, but is that where you grew up?
No, I kind of grew up all over the Inland Empire, kind of. I was born in Montclair. But grandparents till I was like 10. And then I moved out here to Rialto. Let's say I was out there in Rialto for at least 7 years. And I moved back and forth from San Bernardino to, and I went to high school in Riverside. Yeah. I went to high school out here in San Bernardino at Rialto High School, and then I've just been basically out here ever since after high school in San Bernardino.
Yeah.
That's where my family usually, grew up and stuff.
Yeah, go ahead, Omar.
Yeah, I'm just curious. So, I think so. I grew up in Stockton, California, up north, and I know that like the Diaz brothers are from up there, and there's just like a lot of us have a lot of pride from where we come up from, right? The town, the city, the community that raised us, that bred us. I'm wondering how growing up in these different cities, also moving around a lot, has shaped who you are and how that has actually impacted you to like want to be a fighter.
I didn't really get into fighting until like I say my junior year in high school in Riverside. I went to the Ramona Rams out there. I wanted to do wrestling when I was in Rialto, but I had gotten in trouble with the police and stuff, so my family moved us out of the Rialto area to move us to like, I guess, a safer area, Riverside. And I just did wrestling out there, and then I became two-year league champ for the Ramona Rams. And I met some people while I was doing wrestling and stuff, and they kind of got me into to the MMA UFC type thing. My friend Christopher Jacob Cottle actually was the one who got me into it. So ever since then, I wanted to go to the UFC after I started watching the fights. I think the first MMA fight in the UFC I watched was Spencer the King Fisher. Oh, yeah. And it just made me like, dang, that guy has heart. Like he's a warrior, and I want to be like that. And ever since then, I was in love with the sport.
Is there any parallels between, I mean, when I think about all the male figures that I grew up watching, right, and the way that they inspired me, like I connected and resonated with their story. So is there anything that connects you to Spencer? Is it just the way he fought, or just the kind of commitment? Because I remember watching him when he fought Sam Stout.
It was the way he fought people. It's just from the beginning to the ending, like he never gave up. Even if he was like losing, he would come back, like do a comeback, like type thing, and just defeat his opponent. Even when he lost, to me, it seemed like he had won. And that's what just made me like, dang, that's kind of how I felt like, because I was, I had the short man syndrome. So I got in a lot of fights. I said I could count at least on one hand to like at least 5 people I lost to, but they're all way bigger than me. Yeah.
Yeah. So it sounds like you've been the underdog in your life more than once.
Pretty much. Yeah, and like growing up with my my stepmom and my dad. After living with my grandparents, like I used to be, the center of attention. I'm a grandma's boy. Naturally, that's who's on my chest when you see my fights. Yeah, so that was basically the only person really showed me any like real like compassion or love like that.
Yeah, and one of the things when I see your fights, and I've seen all your fights on Streetbeefs. I mean, I'm certain you have more fights than that, but the ones that I've seen on Streetbeefs, that is certainly when if someone were to ask me to describe you, I would certainly describe you in that same way, right? Someone who's willing to fight from bell to bell. Like he comes at you 110%. And so why is that important for someone like yourself or even other folks who grew up in the same kind of conditions to continue to fight all the way to the end?
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you ask the question, woman?
Yeah, I was just asking, like, why is it so important for people like you, for us, for viewers who are watching this? Why is it important for them to fight from bell to bell, from the beginning to the end? Because that's certainly something that I see when I watch you fight.
Honestly, I don't know. I just knew honestly, I knew school wasn't the type of thing for me, and then I just felt like fighting was the easiest, and it came more natural. So it just, I don't know. I just always was a fighter. Like I got in my first fight when I was like 6 years old, defending my brother from a bully, and I don't know. It's just I don't want to ever give up, like, because I know I could beat everyone I could possibly can, pretty much. Especially at my weight class, I know I could beat anyone in my weight class. It's just hands down, I know I can. It's just there's no ifs, ands, or nothing about it.
So Red Reaper, you touched on a lot of things. Like,
there you go. That's better. I'm sorry.
Nah, you're good, bro. Don't worry about it. We all these internet technology issues are happening everywhere. So no worries. I appreciate you logging back on. So we were just touching on sort of all the things that you shared so far about the challenges you've had to overcome. So whether it was being bullied as a kid, having to move around so much, being bullied about not only your height, but also your race and ethnicity, having to navigate all of that, growing up with step parents, having only your grandmother to show you compassion and love. There's been a lot that you have had to overcome, both as a child, as a kid, as a young adult. And I'm sure these struggles and challenges ain't going away all at once like that, right? And so I'm just curious, in your opinion, what do you feel has been the biggest fight in your life so far?
To be a better father than my own dad, I don't want to have, I have all my kids by one woman, and I feel strongly about that because it sucks being a stepchild, because you're not always going to get treated the same as, you treat someone as your own kids.
Yeah, I think certainly we both can relate to that. I mean, I certainly can relate to that, right? So I grew up without my dad, and so I know how difficult it was. Always looking for male figures outside my home. And so as a father now, it's making sure that I'm setting him up, making sure that he sees me consistently. I can continue to show him love and empathy so that he can show the same thing for his son or his children when he gets older. And so, but I think it's really important for men like yourself to really to make that commitment to your kids, right? Because if anything, like that will be our legacy, right? I know that we have legacies outside, like for you, your fight game, probably me, my work, but I think probably the most important legacy is with our children.
And we want to salute you, Red Reaper, for that You know, you a beast. You a beast in the ring, a beast in the cage. There's no doubt about that. But to hear that your most strongest commitment, right, and your biggest challenge to date, and your level of focus in terms of being a father is so on point. So we just want to salute you for that, brother. And you know, to kind of stay on this point, right? Daniel and I were talking before we jumped on the call with you about, like, you're one of the only fighters that we have observed actually bring his family out to the fights, like cage side. Like, other folks might have their homies with them, but you have your wife who's the loudest, who's the most passionate. You got your kids right there. Oh, yeah. Talk a little bit about that. Like, what is that like? Huh?
I couldn't have done it without my wife, honestly, because she's like my biggest supporter. Like, that's why I love that woman to the fullest. Like, I'm blessed to have her in my life. When she met me, I was homeless. I was sleeping on the floor with maggots crawling out the carpets and stuff. It was bad. And she still was there for me. Even when I went to jail for a year, she'd come visit me every visit day, like for the weekends. Like, everyone used to hate on me when I was in jail, when I was in the Twin Towers. They'd be like, dang, man, you already got a visit already? You got a visit again? Didn't you just have a visit yesterday? Like, it's crazy. And I always have money on my books. Like, my girl, she does her best. And, like, she's an amazing woman. And she's a rare woman to come by these days, you know? Like, and it's just, I'm blessed to have her.
Shout out to your wife, man. She's a real one.
Shout
out to her.
Yeah.
Shout out to all the wives out there. Shout out to all the women, holding down us as men. We trying to get this shit together.
Man, when she met me, I was doing crazy stuff. I was out there doing reckless things. I was out there robbing people just for little to nothing, just so I could get by through the day or through a week. And then I would be doing it and also, like, supporting my other family members because they wasn't doing too well at the time either. So I was like, basically, I was just sleeping on their floor and stuff. And they had a bunch of kids, and I used to watch them. But I just wanted, I always felt like if my cousins could make it, and they live, you know, a pretty harsh life as well, I know I can make it too. And I just thought, like, the best thing or the easiest thing that came to me was just using my talent as a fighter. Just use that, and I could make something out of it. And now I train with professional fighters, and they're just pretty much getting me ready to move up in the next level.
Or that's awesome. And so what does the future look like for you? I mean, you're kind of hinting at it now, but I would love for you to be a little bit more specific about your future and what does success look like?
It's actually looking it's going really well for me right now. As long as I keep training and staying with the same camp I've been training with. I've been going to Bravo's garage. He's been teaching me everything. And he's also a UFC fighter, and he says I have potential to be in the UFC maybe, say, in a year or so, or maybe sometime next year after I do a couple fights for Streetbeefs. And he said he just wants me to learn a little bit more technique and get some more experience pretty much, and then I'm pretty much there.
That's awesome. So I'm hearing that for you in the future, you see the UFC in the future for yourself.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
That's the main goal. And that's been the goal for a long time since I got into the MMA, watching the UFC.
Yeah. And can you tell us a little bit about like what is it going to take on your end? What is it going to take for you to get to that level? What is it going to take for you to actually make it on the UFC roster?
Just dedication to training, pretty much. My coach told me I'm gonna miss birthdays, anniversaries, holidays. It's gonna be worth it at the end because I'll be there at that level where I need to be as a fighter.
That's right.
Like I only worked with them for 2 months, and I was already pretty much self-trained, and I already could see in the video my fight level has risen a lot higher just in those 2 months. Just imagine me with 8 months training or a year training. I'm gonna be a way better fighter.
Yeah, we can certainly see it, man. I think the last video certainly saw a lot of progress from the fights before. So we certainly wish you the best. We appreciate your time for this interview. I know that you will continue to fight. We can tell from your style that you are going to you're going to continue to pursue it until you get there. So we trust that will happen.
Is there anything that you want to say to your fans? Anything that you just want to put out there? We see that you're rocking the Red Reaper shirt. Is there a place that your fan base can support you?
Oh yeah, on my Instagram it's Red Reaper Iron Empire on Instagram. Just add me, follow me, whatever. And I usually sell my t-shirts about around $25 for I guess adult sizes, and like any younger size for the younger kids or babies, probably about be like $10 or so. I'm still trying to work on like the pricing and stuff, because I haven't sold anything to the kids yet, but I've sold a lot to adults.
And what's your message to your fans?
If you have a dream, just follow it, pretty much. Keep pushing no matter what, because God's gonna test you all the way there. He's gonna test your strength, and just have a good support system. Like, it's really hard doing it by yourself because everyone needs help.
Or that's a message we can certainly leave off on. Everyone needs help. Absolutely. So we appreciate your time, brother. Continue the journey. We wish you well. Thanks, brother. Appreciate it.
Thank you, man.
Thank you for tuning in. Hopefully you found some gems that you can apply to your life. If you like what you saw, what you heard, please subscribe to the channel. Also, donate a little bit of pocket change to our Patreon page so that we can bring more content like this to you. So until then, dig deep and double down on your commitment to yourself.
Yeah.